Hi there. I'd like to talk for a moment here about older relatives and helping prevent them from being scammed or how to deal with it when an older relative of ours has been scammed or an older person that we know, right? So a frequent thought that comes up for people when this happens is, oh, does he have dementia? Is it Alzheimer's? And they start to wonder about that because the situation seems like that couldn't have happened. How could, right? It's when you hear about a scam, it is much easier to see that it's a scam than when you initially get contacted by a scammer. And so it's a kind of a natural process that people try and figure that out. And many times they start thinking about dementia. So it isn't necessarily dementia. The way that I tend to think about it is dementia, Alzheimer's, or whatever form of dementia it is this a risk factor for someone to be scammed? Absolutely is a risk factor. It makes them more vulnerable to being scammed. But if a person is scammed, this does not mean that they have Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. There are other factors that you need to consider, but you don't need to jump to that as the conclusion as far as what's happening. So sometimes people even start to wonder if they need to put their parent, for instance, in a home because this has happened. And no, that's not necessarily the case. You need to look at other factors, this person's other interactions with their friends and with you, and much more than just the fact that they were scammed. Instead of focusing on that piece of it, another couple of things that you can do is look for ways to help this person protect themselves in the future from that happening again. So an example of that may be to advise them not to answer the phone if they don't recognize the number. Have all the people they know in their contacts on their phone so that if it's a number they don't recognize, they don't answer, and then screen it with voicemail. If they do accidentally answer and it's not a familiar situation, it sounds like it might be suspect, then advise your older relative to ask the person for a telephone number to call them back, or simply ask, "Can I call you back?" And then if they say they're with the bank, then tell your relative to call the bank directly and ask if that person's there, if someone just called, if there's a problem with their account. And so they check it out a different way rather than continuing to speak with the person who called. Someone who is legitimate is not going to be offended by this. If the person gets offended, hang up. That is likely to be a scammer. This, in fact, is one of the number one ways to suss out if it's a scammer, right? Is if you say, "No, I need to call you back, I need to call you back," they'll usually give up, or frequently they'll give up. So that's something to keep in mind to help them protect themselves. Another is to have a family code word. Here's why I say that. So AI, artificial intelligence, is becoming more and more prominent in our world. And unfortunately, this is an exceptional tool for scammers. That's a horrible thing to do, but they do horrible things. And so to protect against a scammer using AI, for instance, to duplicate your own voice, have a code word with this relative that if the person on the phone doesn't use the code word, even if they sound exactly like you, if they don't use the code word, nothing's happening. Just hang up. And they know it's not you. And that can be expanded to other family members. Everybody in the family can have a code word, similar to something that we've done with kids for a while, is to have a code word. And if a stranger approaches them, if they can't say the code word, then the kids don't go with them. It's the same idea as that. And then if you think of other ways that you can protect this person and help them avoid being scammed, use those ideas instead, rather than jumping to the conclusion that the person has dementia. Thanks for listening.